At 2:17 in the morning, Kang Ji-won stood alone on the rooftop of a luxury hotel in Gangnam, watching Seoul glitter beneath her. 3 hours earlier, her name had been everywhere. Not because she had won an award. Not because she had been promoted. Because her career had collapsed in a single night. The financial scandal that had shaken one of Seoul's largest investment companies had been blamed on her. 6 years of flawless work. Destroyed by one accusation. Her phone continued vibrating inside her handbag. Messages from journalists. Calls from former colleagues. Threats from strangers. She ignored all of them. Ji-won had always been the woman people trusted when everything went wrong. She could calm angry investors. Negotiate impossible situations. Make powerful executives believe a disaster was under control. But tonight, there was nothing left for her to control. She had already resigned. Her apartment lease was about to expire. Her savings were frozen while investigators examined the company accounts. And the mentor who had once called her his most talented student had refused to answer a single call. Ji-won walked toward the edge of the rooftop. Not to jump. Just to breathe. She needed one moment where nobody expected anything from her. Then she heard footsteps behind her, slow. Unhurried. She turned. A man stood several meters away. He was dressed in an immaculate black suit. No security guards. No assistants. No obvious reason to be there. His name was Lee Tae-hyun. A hotel investor whose reputation was almost as mysterious as his wealth. Ji-won had heard his name before. Everyone in Seoul's financial circles had. He rarely appeared in public. And when he did, people listened. He stopped beside the rooftop entrance. "I've been looking for you." Ji-won's expression hardened. "Then you've found me." Tae-hyun looked toward the city. "I know what happened." "Everyone knows what happened." "No." He turned toward her. "I know what really happened." For the first time that night, Ji-won became completely still. He reached into his coat and removed a small envelope. He didn't hand it to her. He simply held it between them. Inside was evidence capable of changing everything. Evidence that could prove Ji-won had been framed. But there was a condition. Tae-hyun wasn't offering it for free. He looked directly into her eyes. "I can give you your life back." Ji-won stared at him. "Why would you?" His expression barely changed. "Because I need someone like you." And with those words, the most dangerous offer of Ji-won's life began. Ji-won didn't take the envelope. She stared at it instead. "What's inside?" "Proof." "Proof of what?" Tae-hyun's expression remained calm. "That the person who destroyed your career is still working inside the company." Her breathing changed. For 6 years, Ji-won had believed the scandal was the result of one terrible mistake. Now he was telling her it had been deliberate. She finally took the envelope. Inside were photographs, bank records, private emails, and a single encrypted file. Her hands began to tremble. One name appeared repeatedly. Kang Min-suk. Her former mentor. The man who had introduced her to the financial world. The man who had called her his daughter. Ji-won looked up. "Where did you get this?" "I have people who find things." "Why would you investigate him?" Tae-hyun stepped closer. "Because Min-suk took something from me too." She frowned. "What?" "My company." Ji-won froze. He explained that years earlier, Min-suk had secretly manipulated a business acquisition that destroyed one of Tae-hyun's family's investments. Tae-hyun had spent years rebuilding what remained. Now he wanted revenge. And Ji-won was the missing piece. "You want me to help you destroy him?" "I want you to expose him." "What's the difference?" Tae-hyun smiled faintly. "The difference is whether you become a victim again." Ji-won looked down at the evidence. For months, She had imagined one thing: clearing her name, getting her career back, making the people who abandoned her regret it. Now the opportunity was sitting in her hands. But something about Tae-hyun frightened her. He wasn't offering justice. He was offering power. And power always came with a price. "What do you want from me?" Tae-hyun finally answered. "I want you to become my partner." "Business partner?" Publicly. She stared at him. "You want me to work for you?" "I want Seoul to believe you chose me." Ji-won slowly understood. He wasn't simply offering her evidence. He was offering her a new identity. A new career. A new life. And perhaps a new enemy. She closed the envelope. "What are the rules?" For the first time. Tae-hyun smiled. 3. He held up one finger. "Never lie to me." A second. "Never investigate me." Then the third. "Never leave before I tell you it's safe." Ji-won stared at him. The third rule made no sense. And somehow, it was the one that frightened her most. She should have walked away. Instead, she said the words that would change her life. "Tell me where to sign." 3 days later, Ji-won walked into a building she had once been forbidden to enter. The headquarters of Orion Holdings. This time, she wasn't walking through the lobby as a disgraced former consultant. She was walking beside Lee Tae-hyun. Every head turned. Whispers followed them across the marble floor. The woman who had supposedly ruined a billion-won investment was suddenly standing beside one of Seoul's most powerful investors. Nobody understood why. That was exactly what Tae-hyun wanted. Inside the private elevator, Ji-won looked at him. "You planned this." "Of course. You enjoy making people uncomfortable. Only when they're pretending not to be." The elevator doors opened. Tae-hyun led her into a private conference room. Waiting inside were 6 executives. None of them looked pleased. He introduced Ji-won as the new director of strategic operations for his upcoming acquisition. The room went silent. One executive immediately objected. "She's under investigation." Tae-hyun calmly looked at him. "Was she convicted?" "No." "Then she's innocent." The executive said nothing. Ji-won felt something she hadn't felt in months. Power. Not borrowed power. Not sympathy. A seat at the table. But as the meeting continued, she noticed something strange. Tae-hyun already knew exactly how she would respond to every question. He knew which executives she distrusted. He knew which companies she had previously investigated. He even knew about a private conversation she had once had with her former mentor. That information had never appeared in the investigation documents. When the meeting ended, Ji-won followed him into the hallway. "How much do you actually know about me?" Tae-hyun stopped. "Enough." "That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting." She stared at him. He continued walking. That evening, Ji-won returned to her apartment. A black envelope was waiting beneath her door. There was no name on it. Inside was a photograph. It showed Ji-won herself, standing beside Tae-hyun 3 years earlier. She had never met him before. At least, she didn't remember meeting him. Her hands went cold. She turned the photograph over. 5 words were written on the back. "You have met him before." Ji-won stared at the message. Then at the photograph. For the first time, she wondered whether Tae-hyun had chosen her because she was useful. Or because he had been waiting for her. Ji-won barely slept. The photograph remained on her bedside table. She kept turning it over, looking at it from different angles, trying to remember the place, the clothes she had been wearing, the expression on Tae-hyun's face. Nothing came back. By morning, she had convinced herself the photograph could have been manipulated. But one detail bothered her. She was wearing a silver bracelet. A bracelet she had lost 3 years earlier. At 8:30 a.m. she went directly to Tae-hyun's office. She didn't knock. He was standing beside the window, reading a report. "You knew me before we met." He didn't look surprised. "I wondered how long it would take you to figure that out." Her anger rose. "Who was I to you?" Tae-hyun placed the report down. 3 years ago, you investigated a company called Mirai Capital. Ji-won remembered. It had been one of her most difficult assignments. She had discovered irregular transactions but was ordered to abandon the investigation. Then her mentor had taken over. The case disappeared. "So, you found something you weren't supposed to find?" Ji-won stared at him. "What?" "A hidden account." Her heartbeat quickened. Tae-hyun explained that the account contained evidence connecting several powerful businessmen to a network of illegal financial transfers. Ji-won had unknowingly discovered the beginning of it. But someone erased her investigation before she could finish. "And you?" "I was looking for the same people." She looked at him suspiciously. "Then why didn't you come to me?" "Because I tried." Her expression changed. Tae-hyun opened a drawer. Inside was an old file. Her name was written across the front. Ji-won slowly opened it. There were copies of reports she had written 3 years ago. Notes she had forgotten. And one photograph. A younger version of herself standing outside the Mirai Capital building. Beside her was Tae-hyun. The same photograph. Only this time, she remembered something. A rainy afternoon. A man giving her an umbrella. A warning whispered into her ear. "Don't trust the people above you." Ji-won's eyes widened. She remembered him. But she remembered something else too. That man hadn't been Tae-hyun. She looked at the photograph again. Her memory had been deliberately altered by time. Or by someone. She looked at Tae-hyun. "Why did you bring me back into this?" His expression became darker. "Because the people who framed you 3 years ago." He paused. "Are preparing to do it again." Ji-won felt the room suddenly become colder. She had thought she was accepting a second chance. She was beginning to realize. She had walked back into an unfinished war. 2 weeks passed. Ji-won threw herself into Tae-hyun's company. She worked relentlessly. Every document. Every acquisition. Every suspicious transaction. She began rebuilding the reputation that had been stolen from her. But something had changed. She no longer trusted easily. Not Tae-hyun. Not her former colleagues. Not even her own memories. Then, one evening, she discovered a discrepancy in one of Orion's acquisition files. A small transfer. Almost invisible. But the destination account belonged to a company connected to Kang Min-suk, her former mentor. Ji-won stared at the screen. She immediately confronted Tae-hyun. He didn't deny it. "Why is money moving between your company and his?" "It isn't my money." "Then whose is it?" Tae-hyun remained silent. That silence frightened her more than an explanation would have. She demanded access to the complete transaction records. He refused. The second rule. Never investigate me. Ji-won reminded him that she had agreed to work with him, not surrender her judgment. He stepped closer. "You're getting too close. To the truth. To something that can destroy you." She stared at him. "Then tell me what it is." He wouldn't. That night, Ji-won returned home and discovered that someone had entered her apartment. Nothing appeared stolen. Her laptop remained untouched. Her jewelry was still there. But the old file from Tae-hyun was gone. She immediately called him. No answer. Then her phone received a message from an unknown number. A photograph of the missing file. Beneath it were 6 words. "You should have left him alone." Ji-won's heart raced. Someone was watching her. And whoever it was knew about the agreement. Ji-won didn't sleep. At dawn, she drove directly to Orion Holdings. Tae-hyun was already there. He looked at her once and immediately knew. Someone entered my apartment. His expression hardened. What did they take? The file you gave me. He stood. Did they touch anything else? No. Tae-hyun walked toward the security console. Within minutes, his security team pulled the building footage. A figure appeared entering Ji-won's apartment shortly after midnight. The face was covered. But the height, the posture, the way he walked. Ji-won recognized him. She had seen that silhouette before. At her former company. 3 years ago. He worked for Minute-suk. Tae-hyun looked at her. You're sure? I remember him. For the first time, Tae-hyun looked genuinely concerned. He ordered his security team to trace the man's movements. The trail led to an abandoned warehouse near Incheon Harbor. That evening, Tae-hyun wanted Ji-won to remain at home. She refused. She had spent too long being protected by people who were secretly controlling her. She went with him. The warehouse was almost completely dark. Inside, they found dozens of boxes filled with financial records. Old contracts. Photographs. Hard drives. Evidence from companies that had disappeared years ago. Ji-won opened one of the boxes. Her breath stopped. Inside was her original investigation from 3 years earlier. The report she thought had been destroyed. But there was something else. A photograph of Minute-suk meeting with several executives. And standing beside them was Tae-hyun. Ji-won slowly turned toward him. You were there. Tae-hyun didn't answer. You knew about this. I knew about the meeting. You lied to me. He looked at her. I protected you. That's not protection. Her voice shook. That's manipulation. Before he could respond, the warehouse lights suddenly turned on. A voice echoed from the darkness. She's finally asking the right questions. Ji-won turned. Kang Minute-suk stepped into the light. Older. Calmer. Still wearing the same reassuring smile she remembered from years ago. The man she had once trusted completely. The man who had destroyed her life. He looked directly at her. Ji-won. He smiled. You're still too curious. Ji-won couldn't move. For 3 years, she had imagined confronting Kang Minute-suk. She had imagined screaming. Accusing him. Demanding answers. But now that he stood in front of her, all she felt was disappointment. You destroyed my career. Minute-suk's expression barely changed. I saved you from something worse. Ji-won laughed bitterly. By making everyone believe I was a criminal. You were about to expose people who would have killed you. Tae-hyun stepped forward. Don't listen to him. Minute-suk looked at him. You should be the last person telling her that. Ji-won turned toward Tae-hyun. What does he mean? Tae-hyun remained silent. Her heart sank. Tell me. He finally admitted that he had known Minute-suk was investigating the same network years ago. But Tae-hyun had never told her everything. He had needed her to trust him first. Ji-won's face hardened. So both of you lied to me. Neither man answered. She stepped backward. For months, she had believed Tae-hyun was the one person who could help her reclaim her life. Now she realized something terrifying. Both men had been moving pieces around her. And she had been the piece. Minute-suk approached her slowly. Come with me. Ji-won stared at him. You expect me to trust you? No. He looked toward Tae-hyun. I expect you to distrust him. Tae-hyun's expression changed. Minute-suk placed a small USB drive on the table. Everything you need to know about Tae-hyun is on this. Ji-won didn't touch it. What is it? The truth about why he chose you. Her eyes moved between the two men. Min-suk smiled. Ask him. Silence filled the warehouse. Ji-won turned to Tae-hyun. Why me? Tae-hyun looked at her for a long moment. Then finally, he answered. Because you were the only person who could destroy them. Ji-won's expression softened. That's not the whole truth. He didn't respond. And she knew immediately. It wasn't. She picked up the USB drive. Not because she trusted Min-suk. Not because she trusted Tae-hyun. But because she had finally realized something. If she wanted the truth, she couldn't keep letting either man tell her what it was. She walked toward the warehouse exit. Tae-hyun called her name. She stopped. Without turning around, she said. From this moment on, nobody controls what I know. Then she walked away. Behind her, two powerful men remained in silence. For the first time, neither knew what Ji-won would do next. Ji-won drove until sunrise. She didn't return to her apartment. She went somewhere neither man would expect. An old office she had rented when she first started her career. The place had been abandoned for years. Dust covered the furniture. But the old computer still worked. Ji-won inserted the USB drive. Password screen appeared. She tried her birthday. Nothing. Her mother's name. Nothing. Then she remembered something Min-suk had once told her. Truth is always hidden where nobody thinks to look. She entered the name of the company she had investigated 3 years earlier. The screen unlocked. Dozens of encrypted folders appeared. She opened the first. Bank transfers. The second. Private recordings. The third. Photographs. Her hands went cold. The photographs showed Min-suk meeting executives. Then Tae-hyun. Then her. Not recently. 3 years earlier. There were photographs of Ji-won entering meetings she didn't remember attending. Standing beside people she had never met. Receiving documents she had never seen. She stared at the screen. Someone had been following her long before the scandal. She opened the final folder. There was a video. A younger Ji-won appeared on screen. She was sitting in a dark conference room. Across from her was Tae-hyun. But this version of Tae-hyun looked different. Younger. Angrier. And terrified. Ji-won watched herself say something she couldn't remember saying. If anything happens to me. The recording suddenly cut. She replayed it. Again. And again. Nothing. Then she noticed the timestamp. 3 years earlier. The night before the financial scandal began. Ji-won leaned back slowly. She had spent years believing someone had framed her. But the evidence suggested something much worse. She may have been involved. And had somehow forgotten. Her phone suddenly rang. Unknown number. She answered. Silence. Then a woman's voice whispered. Stop looking. Ji-won froze. Who is this? The woman breathed heavily. If you remember everything. She paused. They will kill you. The call ended. Ji-won stared at the phone. Then at the screen. She had wanted the truth. Now the truth was beginning to look like something she might not survive. And somewhere across Seoul, Tae-hyun was watching the same video. Because he had received a copy too, Ji-won watched the recording 17 times. Every time, she noticed something different. The room. The date. Tae-hyun's expression. And most disturbing of all, her own voice. She sounded calm. As if she knew exactly what was happening. She paused the video. Then whispered to herself. What did they do to me? A memory suddenly surfaced. A white room. A bright light. Someone asking her questions. A man's voice telling her to forget. Then. Nothing. Ji-won grabbed her head as the memory disappeared. Her phone rang. This time, it was Tae-hyun. She almost ignored him. Instead, she answered. Did you watch the video? A long silence. Yes. Who was I talking to? I don't know. She knew he was lying. Tae-hyun. I'm coming to you. No. Her voice became firm. I don't want you here. Another silence. Then he said something that frightened her. You need to leave that building. Why? Because they know where you are. Ji-won looked toward the window. A black sedan was parked across the street. She couldn't see the driver. Her heart began racing. She grabbed the USB drive and stood. How did you know where I was? Tae-hyun didn't answer. That was enough. She ended the call. For the first time. She wasn't sure whether Tae-hyun was protecting her or monitoring her. She took the back staircase. The moment she stepped outside, the black sedan started moving. Ji-won ran. She turned down a narrow street and disappeared into a crowded morning market. The sedan continued past. She waited. Then noticed someone standing across the street. A woman. Late 30s. Dark coat. Watching her. Ji-won recognized her from the video. The woman who had been sitting behind Tae-hyun. The woman whose face had appeared for only 2 seconds. The stranger approached. You remember the room? Ji-won froze. Who are you? The woman looked terrified. My name is Yoon Harin. She lowered her voice. And I was there the night you were made to forget. Harin led Ji-won into a small cafe hidden behind the market. They chose a table in the back. Away from the windows. Away from everyone. Harin kept checking the door. Ji-won noticed. You said you were there. Harin nodded. The night before the scandal. What happened? Harin hesitated. Then she finally spoke. You discovered the hidden accounts. Ji-won already knew that part. But you didn't report them. Ji-won's eyebrows tightened. Why? Because someone threatened your family. The words hit her harder than she expected. Harin explained that Minute-suk had discovered Ji-won's investigation. Instead of destroying the evidence immediately, he tried to use it. He wanted Ji-won to help him expose a group of investors who were secretly moving money through several companies. But before she could decide, someone inside the organization betrayed them. The night everything collapsed, Ji-won was taken to a private medical facility. Not kidnapped. Not physically harmed. But heavily sedated. Harin had been there. She had witnessed doctors erase portions of Ji-won's recent memory under instructions from someone powerful. Ji-won's hands began trembling. Who ordered it? Harin looked at her. I never saw the person's face. Then how do you know Tae-hyun was involved? I don't. Ji-won looked confused. Harin leaned closer. That's the problem. She pulled out an old photograph. It showed the medical facility. Tae-hyun stood outside. But so did someone else. Kang Minute-suk. And between them was Ji-won. Alive. Conscious. Speaking to both men. Ji-won stared at the photograph. That doesn't make sense. Harin nodded. Because the story you've been told isn't true. Which part? All of it. Before Ji-won could respond, the cafe door opened. Both women turned. Tae-hyun stood there. His expression was unusually serious. He looked at Harin. You shouldn't have brought her here. Harin stood. You lied to her. Tae-hyun looked at Ji-won. I was trying to keep you alive. Ji-won slowly rose from her chair. Then tell me the truth. Tae-hyun didn't move. Finally. He said something that shattered everything she thought she knew. You weren't their victim, Ji-won. He paused. You were their inside informant. Ji-won stared at Tae-hyun. An informant? The word felt foreign. Impossible. She had spent 3 years believing she had been betrayed. Now he was telling her she had been part of the operation from the beginning. Tae-hyun sat down. You approached me first. Ji-won shook her head. I don't remember. I know. He explained that 3 years earlier, Ji-won had secretly discovered the financial network. She knew going public would put her family and colleagues at risk. So she contacted Tae-hyun. Together, they created a plan. Ji-won would remain inside the company. She would collect evidence. Tae-hyun would protect her identity. But someone discovered the operation. And everything collapsed. Ji-won was taken to the medical facility. Her memories were manipulated. Her investigation was buried. Her career was destroyed. Tae-hyun had spent 3 years trying to find a way to bring her back into the investigation without exposing her to the people who were still watching her. Ji-won looked at him. Why didn't you just tell me? Because the moment you remembered everything. He stopped. You would become a target again. Harin quietly added. And someone close to you was helping them. Ji-won's stomach tightened. Who? Neither answered. She looked from one to the other. Then suddenly, she remembered something. A voice. Her father's voice. A conversation from 3 years ago. A warning. Never trust the man who offers you the truth. Ji-won's eyes widened. Her father had known. She stood abruptly. I need to see him. Tae-hyun grabbed her wrist. Don't. She pulled away. You don't get to decide that anymore. She walked out. Tae-hyun followed. Ji-won, listen to me. She turned. I spent 3 years believing I was broken. Her voice trembled. Then I discovered someone had taken my memories. She looked directly at him. And now I'm discovering that everyone around me knew more about my life than I did. Tears filled her eyes. I don't need another protector. She stepped closer. I need the truth. Tae-hyun's expression softened. You may hate me when you hear it. Ji-won swallowed. Then let me hate you. She walked away. Behind her, Tae-hyun remained motionless. Because he knew what Ji-won was about to discover. And once she did, there would be no going back. Ji-won arrived at her father's house just before midnight. The security gate opened immediately. That frightened her. Her father had always demanded to know who was coming and going. Tonight, nobody questioned her. She entered the study. Kang Min-suk was already waiting. He looked older than she remembered. Tired. Almost fragile. Ji-won stood across from him. You knew. He didn't pretend not to understand. Yes. You knew my memories were altered. Yes. You knew Tae-hyun was protecting me. Another pause. Yes. Her anger finally broke. Then why did you let me believe you destroyed my life? Min-suk lowered his eyes. Because someone had to become the villain. Ji-won froze. He explained that the financial network wasn't controlled by one person. It involved executives, investors, politicians, and intermediaries across several companies. If the truth had surfaced 3 years ago, the people behind it would have disappeared. So Min-suk created a false trail. He allowed himself to appear responsible. He sacrificed his reputation. But there was one thing he couldn't control. Someone inside the investigation betrayed them. That person leaked Ji-won's identity. And that was why her memory had to be hidden. Ji-won stared at him. Then why did you frame me? Min-suk's eyes filled with regret. I didn't. Her breathing stopped. The evidence that destroyed you was created after your memory was erased. Ji-won slowly stepped backward. Who? Min-suk looked toward the door. Tae-hyun. Silence. Ji-won couldn't breathe. Minute-suk continued. He wasn't protecting you from the beginning. He was using you. Before Ji-won could respond, the lights went out. A crash came from the hallway. Minute-suk immediately moved toward her. Stay behind me. A shadow passed outside the study. Then the door opened. Tae-hyun stood there. His face was unreadable. Ji-won looked at him. Did you frame me? He didn't answer immediately. That silence was enough to terrify her. Finally, Tae-hyun whispered. I did. Ji-won's world collapsed. But before she could speak, he added. Because 3 years ago, you asked me to. Her eyes widened. And suddenly, a memory came rushing back. Her own voice. Her own face. Her own decision. She had been the one who started the plan. Ji-won couldn't move. Her own voice echoed inside her mind. I asked you to. She looked at Tae-hyun. Show me. He didn't ask what she meant. He reached inside his coat and removed an old phone. The device was scratched and almost 3 years old. He pressed play. A recording filled the room. Ji-won's younger voice came through the speaker. Calm. Determined. If they discover the investigation, they'll come after everyone. Tae-hyun's younger voice answered. Then we stop. No. Her recorded voice was firm. We make them believe I was responsible. Ji-won's eyes widened. She listened as her younger self explained the plan. She would allow the evidence to point toward her. Her reputation would be destroyed temporarily. Tae-hyun would appear to abandon her. Minute-suk would take the blame for the larger operation. Then, once the network exposed itself, they would bring everything down. It had been an elaborate operation. A dangerous one. But there was one problem. Someone had discovered the plan. The person who manipulated Ji-won's memory wasn't part of their team. They had altered the plan without their knowledge. And the financial scandal became real. Ji-won covered her mouth. She had sacrificed herself. And then someone had stolen the sacrifice from her. Tae-hyun looked at her. I tried to bring you back. She shook her head. You lied. Yes. You watched me suffer. Yes. Why? His eyes filled with regret. Because every time I got close to telling you, someone tried to kill you. Ji-won looked at the phone. Then at Minute-suk. Then back at Tae-hyun. For years, she had wanted one person to blame. But there wasn't one villain. There were layers of secrets. Mistakes. Sacrifices. And people who had convinced themselves that lying was protection. Ji-won wiped her tears. I'm done. Tae-hyun frowned. Done with what? Being someone's weapon. She walked toward the door. I'll expose everything. Minute-suk stood. You don't know what that will cost. Ji-won turned. For 3 years, everyone else decided what I could survive. Her voice became steady. Now I'm deciding. She walked away. This time, neither man stopped her. Because they finally understood. Ji-won wasn't the frightened woman they had once tried to protect. She was ready to become the person who ended the entire game. By sunrise, Ji-won had made her decision. She wouldn't run. She wouldn't hide. And she wouldn't allow Tae-hyun or Minute-suk to decide what happened next. She contacted Harin. They met inside an empty recording studio in Mapo. Ji-won placed every piece of evidence on the table. Bank records. Old recordings. Photographs. Encrypted files. The original investigation. Harin stared at the collection. If we release all of this, we expose everyone. Even Tae-hyun. Ji-won hesitated. Then nodded. Everyone. She had finally understood the difference between revenge and truth. Revenge chooses who deserves punishment. Truth doesn't care who gets hurt. They spent the entire day verifying every document. By evening, they had enough evidence to expose the financial network. But there was one final problem. The files were encrypted. Only one person had the master key. Tae-hyun. Ji-won called him. He answered immediately. I know what you're doing. Then you know why I'm calling. You can't release those files. Why? Because the people behind this will come after you. They already have. Silence. Then Tae-hyun asked, do you still trust me? Ji-won looked at the evidence spread across the table. No. He exhaled. Good. She frowned. What? I spent 3 years trying to make you trust me. His voice softened. Maybe I was wrong. He told her where the master key was hidden. Then he gave her one final warning. Once you unlock those files, there is no going back. Ji-won smiled sadly. There hasn't been a way back for a long time. She ended the call. Harin looked at her. Are you sure? Ji-won stared at the computer. No. Then she opened the encryption program. But I'm ready. The screen began processing. Access granted. Thousands of files appeared. Names. Accounts. Secret companies. Hidden transactions. And at the very top, a folder bearing a name Ji-won had never expected to see. Project Mirror. She opened it. Her face went pale. Because the project wasn't about destroying her. It was about creating someone exactly like her. Someone who could replace her. Someone who had already been living her life. Ji-won couldn't breathe. She stared at the screen. The folder contained years of surveillance. Photographs. Medical records. Travel documents. Voice recordings. And one photograph that made her blood run cold. A woman stood outside Hansong Medical Center. From behind, she looked exactly like Ji-won. Same height. Same hairstyle. Same posture. Harin whispered. That's her. Ji-won looked at her. Who? Your replacement. The truth was worse than either woman had imagined. 3 years earlier, while Ji-won's memory was being manipulated, a private organization had been preparing another woman to assume her identity. Not permanently. Only long enough to access confidential accounts and destroy evidence. But the plan had failed. The woman disappeared. Until now. Ji-won opened another file. A recent photograph appeared. The woman was alive. And she was living in Seoul. Ji-won stared at the location. A luxury apartment building. Only 10 minutes from her own home. Her phone suddenly rang. Tae-hyun. She answered. You found Project Mirror. Who is she? A pause. Her name is Han Suar. Where is she? I don't know. You're lying. I'm trying to keep you alive. Ji-won slammed the phone onto the table. Then another notification appeared. An unknown message. Come alone. A location followed. Harin looked frightened. You shouldn't go. Ji-won stood. I have to. Why? Ji-won looked at the photograph. Because she's been living with my face. She arrived at the location 20 minutes later. An abandoned apartment. The door was unlocked. Inside. Everything was perfectly arranged. Photographs of Ji-won covered one wall. Her childhood. Her university years. Her career. Her family. Her relationship with Tae-hyun. Someone had studied every detail of her life. Then a woman stepped out from the hallway. Ji-won froze. The woman's face was almost identical to hers. Not perfect. But close enough to make the resemblance terrifying. The woman looked at Ji-won. And smiled. I've been waiting 3 years to meet you. Ji-won whispered. Who are you? The woman stepped closer. I'm the person they created. She paused. To replace you. Ji-won couldn't take her eyes off Suah. For a moment, neither woman spoke. Then Suah walked toward the wall covered with photographs. They taught me everything about you. Ji-won's voice was barely audible. Why? Because they needed someone who could become you. Suah explained that she had been recruited when she was 27. She had been told it was an acting job. A private security project. A chance to earn enough money to escape a difficult life. Then the training began. Her handwriting. Her voice. Her mannerisms. Her memories. Even the way Ji-won tilted her head when she was angry. But Suah eventually discovered the truth. She wasn't being trained to impersonate Ji-won for a few days. She was being prepared to replace her. And the person who authorized the project wasn't Min-suk. It wasn't Tae-hyun either. Ji-won stared at her. Who? Suah handed her a photograph. Ji-won's hands trembled. The photograph showed a private meeting 3 years earlier. At the center sat the chairman of the investment group that had originally employed Ji-won. Beside him was Ji-won's own father. Ji-won's face went blank. My father. Suah nodded. He knew everything. The realization destroyed the last piece of certainty Ji-won had. Her father had never been protecting her. He had been protecting the empire. When Ji-won discovered the hidden accounts, he had ordered the operation to be contained. When she refused, the plan to replace her had begun. Tae-hyun and Min-suk had later discovered what was happening and tried to stop it. But by then, Ji-won's memory had already been altered. Suah looked at her. They wanted you erased. Ji-won's eyes filled with tears. And you? Suah smiled sadly. I refused to become you. She handed Ji-won a final drive. Everything is on this. Ji-won looked at it. Then her phone began ringing. Her father's name appeared on the screen. She answered. His voice was calm. Almost gentle. Come home. Ji-won said nothing. I know you've discovered everything. Her eyes hardened. Then you know I'm not coming back. Her father sighed. You're making the same mistake again. No. Ji-won looked at Suah. I'm finally making my own decision. She ended the call. The next morning, every major news network in Seoul received an anonymous package. Financial records. Secret recordings. Medical documents. Evidence of the entire operation. And one final video. Ji-won appeared on camera. No disguise. No fear. She looked directly into the lens. My name is Kang Ji-won. She paused. For 3 years, other people decided what my life was supposed to be. Her voice remained steady. Today, I take it back. The files were released. The investigation began. Executives resigned. Counts were frozen. Arrests followed. And the people who had spent years manipulating everyone around them finally lost control. Months later, Ji-won stood on the rooftop where her story had begun. Tae-hyun joined her. He didn't speak. Neither did she. After a long silence, Ji-won looked at him. You lied to me. I know. You manipulated me. I know. And somehow. She smiled faintly. You were still the person who helped me find myself. Tae-hyun looked at her. I never deserved your forgiveness. Maybe not. She looked toward the city. But forgiveness isn't the same as forgetting. He nodded. Ji-won turned toward him. The next time someone offers me a perfect life. She smiled. I'll build my own. Then she walked away. Not rescued. Not controlled. Not replaced. Free. Because the greatest victory wasn't destroying the people who had lied to her. It was finally becoming someone they could never control again.